Gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to reenact the infamous Seinfeld, not Jewish lightning, but Japanese lightning. That's where your mortgage and your affiliate links rub together in order to create a friction fire. En français, what love fellas call frottage. We're going to get some boiled linseed oil. Now, boiled linseed oil has a cicative added. A cicative is a drying agent, essentially metallic ions. What that allows it to do is it catalyzes the reaction, makes it speed up. Speedier chemical reaction, more heat, more meat. Angle of the dangle is directly proportional to the heat of the meat minus the mass of the ass. And we're going to find that out. This thing ought to be rolling coal in nigh on 4 hours. Give or take, plus minus 100%. I'm going to start off by invoking the holiest of holy books, the Crackmaster Car Catalog. You might find better, but you won't find more expensive. And a catalog cut from a personal massager. Note, I do not have any additional ones. And unlike another fella doing the video, those catalog pages in the bin will not change. They'll stay the same, I assure you. As you can see, there's a nice trim looking lady on there. Well, it might be a man. Who can say in this day and age? And we got Scott, bags of the rocks. These are not cotton. And according to the National Association of Calendar Models, what you need is cotton. Okay, now, the one what's actually got a fighting chance of spontaneously combusting. Take a shot every time I say spontaneously combusting. Honest. I ain't lying. Oh, okay. Goes to prove that it's easier, as in the words of Ray Kroc, the inventor of the French fry, it's easier to fool a man than to prove to him he's been fooled. Catalog cut. There's a handsome athletic person in a typical Chinese running pose. There we are. I'm putting the remainder of the brand new linseed oil into the rags, the paper rags. I notice I have quite a few more rags over that side, so I'll increase the thermal mass over on this side by adding more rags. Further instrumentation, K-type thermocouples. One's got the 1 lead, one's got the 2. We'll put the one in the important one, what I feel is going to go orf. But I'll have a camera on this. It'll be a GoPro camera. And we'll put a clock there. We'll put a thermometer for the shop temperature, as well as what else can we have in there? Oh, an IR camera. We'll put an IR camera on there as well. An analog tachometer to see what rhythm it's running at. And also, conveniently, you'll be able to see, if I dick around with it surreptitiously, that'll measure the vibrations of me clomping around. I haven't got a handy timer in the shop. Like I tell Baby Doll, hey, it takes what it takes. Just keep pumping. But there is a clock on this IR camera. If you'd focus, you fuck. Problem is, this thing times out every 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes of time, you go ahead and take a shot every time I say time. As the kids call it, bad breath detector. I just breathed into her. Normally the CO settles down when I quit dicking around with it, but it seems to jump up when I turn it on and when I move it around. Might want to get that total volatile organic compound checked out. This will be an illuminating experience. We're going to plug in that. Oh, I can already smell it. Got the stank of linseed to her. Okay, I'm going to set up the GoPro and go find a timer. You keep an eye on this mess. I can put the one tripod. That's what you're on. I get the old step stool and the hot snot. Running the, what you call that? Vehicle cam. The car cam. The crash cam. Hey. Also, I found some activated carbon pellets. Figured if that's got to char anyway before it alights, we can indoctrinate that linseed oil into the carbon pellets, skip a step. Ought to get us there closer. So we'll have a third test, a start, and a fourth as well. I'm just going to mix up some epoxy resin, real hot. I got some copper. This will help catalyze the oil. It catalyzes methyl alcohol. Now the dryer's JA pan dryer is cobalt, if I'm not mistaken. I don't happen to have any cobalt lying around the machine. Well, actually, there might be cobalt binder in carbide machining tools, but they're a little bit hard to cut, especially with a file. This happens to be the only tune I can play on the guitar. One I like to call Breaking Out of Jail. To the activated charcoal and powdered copper, we add boiled linseed oil, itself with its own secatives. Give it a healthy dose. My buddy's an emerge doc. Shocking, I know. I have a buddy. And Brother Bear busted his wing. So we give him a quote, when you get to emerge, tell him he's had a quote, a healthy dose of medication. So we'll give that a healthy dose of medication. Hey, we got the stove stone dead. Reasons. Because I don't want there to be any ambiguity about where the smoke come from. When there is smoke, if there is smoke. And I'm going to grab some charred coal and do the same thing as with the activated charcoal pellets. And we're going to test those Rubbermaid tough brute. Now it wouldn't surprise me in the leaves if this receptacle, garbage receptacle, with its 11 herbs and proprietary spices, had some, not some boron, some bromine in it. Some bromine compounds in order to reduce its flammability. Now burning polyethylene smells like wax. It smells like burning wax. And it also self-extinguishes. It doesn't continue burning if there's no wicking mechanism there. So to have a bright blue flame wicking across the top is quite surprising to me, at the top of a puddle of this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and make a puddle of this, set it ablaze, see what happens. Magical spontaneous combustion pixie dust. Godspeed, little doodle. Why would you ever do a test like that in plastic? Okay, it no doubt strike you as odd why someone would do fire testing in a plastic garbage receptacle. It struck me as odd too. I set to thinking about it. Here's the thing. Rubbermaid, that's a big outfit. It's probably owned by a bigger outfit. You don't fuck with these guys' bottom line, especially if you're doing something a little bit untowards or a lot untowards. So there must be a reason for it, and it could be just for dramatic visuals, where you need a thumbnail and you got to see the thing melting away to nothing. You know, kind of droopy dick syndrome. It's kind of interesting to look at visually. Obvious failure. However, another bonus, which is a detriment to viewers, is that there's an affiliate link for a fire-resistant receptacle metallized with an automagic closing lid. I don't know how many got sold, but chances are that link was quite profitable. In the words of Charlie Munger, sidekick to the Sage of Omaha, show me the incentives and I'll tell you the outcomes. There's an incentive there to juxtapose the plastic against the painted red metal self-closing lid. The call of the void is strong. Third degree plastic burns, anyone? Okay, I'm gonna light this up. I should turn off the lights for ambiance. Third tries the charm. Puts itself out. Let's try a little bit of paper on there. See what happens. Huh. Oh, what's that mean? Self-extinguishing. However, there isn't a great bloody conflagration right beside it, so. Okay, all right, I'll concede that despite polyethylene being self-extinguishing in some instances, over a molten puddle, that blue flame twist at the top to yellow, it's the correct color of flame. There's nothing untowards there. Essentially what we're doing is we're trying to let me get the hair out of your eyes here. We're trying to propagate a thermal runaway. That is, the temperature rise increases to such an effect that the reaction happens quicker and quicker and quicker. The heat continues to rise. It makes it quicker and quicker and quicker until we reach the auto ignition temperature of the cotton. There is a distinct smell, however, but that might be the waxy smell due to me burning polyethylene over there. And unfortunately, that epoxy, I either didn't mix it hot enough, with half and half. Or maybe it's, no, it's not supposed to be half and half. It's, this is part B. It's 2 to 1. And I did it half and half. So, obviously this catalyst is no good anymore because that should be smoking and in flames by now. It's been an hour. The carbon monoxide is increasing. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. Ho ho! Not as boring as we thought. Not because there's any appreciable temperature. That's epoxy. It's maybe 70 or so. There's something else going on. The CO, when I wasn't in the shop walking around, the CO was sitting at 60. And then since I've been moving around, it's been dropping progressively, but 60 parts per million is quite high. So if the linseed oil soaked rags are heating up and evolving carbon monoxide is a highly flammable gas, according to WMIS or OSHA in the States. I believe it's pronounced oh shit. Carbon monoxide has a flammability of 4, which is extremely flammable. I'll have to look up the TLV and the threshold, upper and lower flammability threshold. But if it's evolving carbon monoxide is lighter than air, so chances are it's going to float up higher. However, if you're in a sort of half enclosed space, you can get pockets of carbon monoxide. And the auto ignition temperature of carbon monoxide is something like negative 200 degrees Celsius. It's really low. This is why, some of the reason why when you, well, first off, according to the Geneva Convention, you cannot use tear gas against fellow combatants or enemy combatants. However, our governments can use tear gas against us, which is kind of interesting. But anytime you get tear gas in an enclosed space, you get a fire. This is a well-known effect. So I wonder if it's the same effect if you get carbon monoxide in an enclosed space. It's got such a low auto ignition temperature and you've got smoldering away. All it takes is a tiny little pocket of carbon monoxide that reaches its, get out of here, we're waking up the stink bugs, that reaches its lower threshold limit, and then it's explosive and pop. The jazz hands routine on the gargler, you'll forgive the town pump warming up there. It's a little late in the day, but allowances must be made. CO is a colorless, odorless, tasteless, and combustible gas with a lower explosive limit, LEL, of 12.5% or 125,000 parts per million. In juxtaposition, propane has a LEL of 2.2%. So it's not quite as flammable as propane, but you get a little pocket in there of carbon monoxide and it's want to explode. That might be where the spontaneous combustion is coming from. I'm gonna put a cover over that just to see. I'm dying to see. Or should I just leave it and then we'll test it another time? No, I'm gonna put a cover over it. I trust you'll forgive me one small intervention on the camera mind. You just go ahead and tilt your head to the side, get rid of that glare. Son of it. 95 high and climbing. Curiouser and curiouser. She's back down to 9 ppm. Must be coming from one of these guys. Or not one of those guys. I would say it's probably coming from the epoxy. So I'm going to move that cover and put the epoxy in there. See what happens. 5 hours on my mark. I'm all for foreplay, but this is, how much wine can a man take? 9 ppm of carbon monoxide with the epoxy chooching in there. I must have filtered it all through my lungs. Some sort of glitch or, yeah, I don't know, man. So close to that magical 6 hours, 29 minutes mark. Which happens to be John 6:29. Behold the work of the Lord, whom he has sent for you to have faith in. Something. Close enough. Should have spontaneously combusted 23 seconds ago. The thing is about experiments, they have to be reproducible. It's an interesting tidbit that most human psychology experiments, well, 50% of human sociology, psychology experiments are not repeatable. Should tell you something about the science of sociology. Watch pot never boils, so I'll go out and plow a field or something or other and wait for the billows of smoke before I come up. Surprising to me is just how much the parts per million vary. Now that might be the craptacular Chinese instrument, but also in the CO2, how much it varies depending on whether or not I'm coming in or out of the shop, or if I leave the door open for any amount of time, or there's any kind of, yeah, it varies a lot. We're at nigh on 9 hours. Went and had supper with the fam, come back to the smell of linseed oil. Getting a little bit heady in here, the bouquet. As you can see, we've added to our synod of instruments, both sacred and profane, with the borscht. That is a level, what for shooting lasers out of its freaking eyeballs. I wanted to be able to spot any amount of smoke emanating from the hottest suspect. Unfortunately, I think we've leveled off on the temperature. Thing is, when this does take off, it's going to be rolling coal, smoking like a platinum-haired mum in the 80s. For 12 hours, 45 minutes. We're getting some buildup of CO, 150 parts per million in there. And a little bit more carbon dioxide. 56.2 Dungarees science. We are still climbing. We might get a result out of this after all. 14 hours, never been much of one to sleep at work, although I have tried. Too much going on. Stope rats eating your lunch. That thermocouple is at the bottom of the pile, 45 and rising. And that guy's right mid-station. Smack dab in the middle of the goddamn road. It's in thermal runaway. More like thermal shuffle away. It ain't happening too quick. Well, not quick enough for me anyway. Condensation on the inside of the dome. The paper, not doing nothing. This guy, I think it would have ran away thermally even without the dome. Not particularly well sealed. You recall, I wanted to check my hypothesis of the CO. There is something coming off of there already because my mucous membranes, my eyes are watering. My nose is tingly, sneezy. I really don't want to stay in here much longer. Total volatile organic compound. spiked pretty good. I can't even stay in here. Not smoking yet. Too toxic for human habitation. There is no fucking way in hell anyone could sit in here. No way. I've been underground, gassed out many times. It's nothing like that. There's a chemical coming off of there. Some sort of phenol, maybe, like in wood smoke. Actually, it feels just like that. The same as getting a big hoot of wood smoke and not being able to get away, you know? Guess that, man, my eyes are burning. There's something noxious coming off there despite its low temperature. Unfortunately, I can't put it outside. It's colder than a bronze bidet tonight and windier shit. Okay, something about having a toxic fire in the shop is setting my, you know, I ain't no milquetoast, but at the same time, I'm old enough to know when my spider sense is tingling, my eyes are fucking streaming water. We're gonna shut her down. This is not the right setup for doing this test. Completely the wrong setup. However, I do have a fume hood built in. I'm gonna take this guy, stick it in the wood stove, and then we'll film it from there. So you'll forgive me for packing down and breaking everything up and then resetting. But we can see the results thus far. We are into thermal runaway. It is off-gassing something horrible. Okay, we got our tripod set up, recording, vehicle mode. Still hotter than a $2 pistol. Ta-da! Great success! And it's still smoking. It's pretty smoky in here. Non-phenolic though. It's just regular old smoke. We learned a number of things on this one. Unfortunately, for the sake of the thumbnail, there was no great conflagration. I had a look at the footage, and it just kind of there's a lot more smoke now. It's still speeding up nearly 23 hours later. So we learned a number of things. One, the paper rags are not as dangerous as the cotton. There's something special about cotton. I would love to see a SEM image, a scanning electron microscope image of the fibers of a cotton rag versus a cellulose rag. I believe I misspoke last night calling it lignin. Lignin is the connective tissue and cellulose is the fiber. That's what they, you know, in the pulping process, they use sulfides to get rid of that lignin. As you can see, that's smoking like a bastard. In a future iteration, in order to get this to actually flame up, we're going to have to add some more fodder to the flames. Some sort, maybe pine shavings, maybe some birch, sawdust, and so forth, so that we have kind of a strata of various tinders. And I think if you were to put this in a bag with holes in the bottom and then seal up the top, you would get those phenols and carbon monoxide in there, and that would really make it conflagrate. And this underlines a more salient point in that it off-gasses very irritating phenols. You cannot stay in the same room as this when it's kicking off. You can't be in the same building. It is so utterly toxic that your mucous membranes, my nose is running right now and my eyes are watering, your mucous membranes and eyes just cannot handle it. It's like snorting pepper spray. What's the difference between black bear poop and grizzly bear poop? Black bear poop's in the middle of the trail and full of berries. Grizzly bear poop is full of bear bells and smells like pepper. It is physically impossible to be in an enclosed space when this is even just starting to chooch. You see at 125 degrees, I could barely stand being in the shop. Toxic, toxic. So if somebody's trying to sell you a safety can by sitting in the shop while this goes off and watching Seinfeld episodes, he is frankly quite full of shit. Here's the cellulose. Nothing happened. There's something. Well, that's a piece of cardboard. Nothing happened. Didn't even heat up. And the linseed impregnated charcoal, it looked like it was going to take off, but it just didn't have enough thermal mass. I think maybe if we had more charcoal in there, a few more cotton rags, it would have taken off. Woohoo! It works. It's working. If at first you don't succeed, keep sucking till you do succeed. Thanks for watching. Keep your dick in a vice. What do you make of this? She fucking smoky. I can tell, baby doll, you mess with the bull. You get the balls. Eventually. Maybe. You want a foot rub? You sneaky bastard. Just about set my hacienda on fire. Never turn your back on an oily rag.